Hey guys, welcome to the $50 Rebuy tournament on PokerStars that I had a good finish in, that I mentioned on my blog. You can see I brought up the payout structures there. We're down to 2 tables, and there's currently 14 people left in the tournament, and I'm the chip leader at the moment. First place, you can see, gets close to $40,000, so it's a pretty exciting tournament for me. This is a tough field tournament, with it having some of the top players, top tournament players, with it being a $50 rebuy. This was on a Sunday, so it was a big tournament, and you know, here we have 7-5 offsuit. I wouldn't mind a steal attempt there, but with the players in the blinds, you can see the player in the big blind has a 40% 3-bet percentage against steal attempts, so it's not the best spot to go for it there, so I like to fold. I am doing the audio after my actual play, about a month or so after, and I'm currently in Las Vegas, so if you hear some background noise, there's airplanes and helicopters going over and people yelling and partying in the streets, so just bear with that, please. You can see the current blind is, a big blind is 12,000, so people at the table, although we do have a lot of chips, we aren't real deep stacked, which is typically the case late in tournaments. The stats, the player stats at the tables all look very solid. You can see the guy in the big blind, Andrew Bokia. He's a very solid player. I think he usually plays high stakes cash games, and I have him marked as a very good player. And he doubles up there, which is not good for everybody else at the table. So late in the tournament, when you're facing mostly good players like this, my strategy is typically, you know, pretty much to play more of a solid style, not trying to steal overly like I would early in the tournament when there's weaker players at the table, because they tend to fight back much more often with 3-bets, and don't just tend to fold their blinds. So with this video, it's going to be roughly an hour and 50 minutes long, I believe. Here you can see 3-bet, as mentioned. Most of these players have pretty high 3-bet percentages against steals, so stealing becomes less profitable against that, and therefore I'm going to have a tighter range for stealing, and hopefully have strong hands to fight back with against them. And another alternative strategy that you can implement later in tournaments like this against the solid, strong players is make more of your steal attempts in early and middle position, because it gets more respect. You don't get 3-bet as often when you raise in early position. And just as I say that, with perfect timing, Andrew Bokia 3-bets an early position raise. The tournament poker, I think, is the highest form of variance in poker that there is compared to cash games or sitting goes, because the fields are so big. You have to get through so many players, and here you see making a steal, raising with king-queen suited is definitely a strong hand. We're playing 7-handed, and I haven't been very active so far, so this raise should get respect. And if someone just flat calls, it's definitely a very playable hand post flop. Okay, so that one works out. And also when you have the chip lead, I think you get a little bit more respect as well, because players know that you can bust them, so they're less likely to tangle with you. Alright, something that's I've been I've really started thinking about more lately, as far as when you're late in tournaments and the antes come into play big like this. You really have to start to go by your effective stack, and what that means is including the antes into the big blind, because you want to look at like typically if you're in a sit and go without antes, you push like with 10 big blinds or less or whatever, and you have these ranges that you do that with, but when antes come into play and they're big antes like this, you really have to incorporate those into your decision making. So you can see there's 11,200 in antes in the middle of the table to start the hand, and that's definitely worth going after. So what I typically do is times the antes by 2/3 and then just add that to the big blind. So the 11,200, I would times that by 0.6666 and just add that to the big blind, and that's your effective big blind. So in this case it'd be roughly about 7,000. That's not exact, that's a rough estimation off the top of my head. So the effective big blind would be roughly about 25,000. So if the big blind is 25,000, my stack then is roughly a stack of 37 big blinds, which is far less than it looks with the big blind only being 16,000. So here I make a 3-bet with ace queen suited, definitely a strong hand, and if he decides to shove, it's probably going to be a call for me. Again, it's been a month since I actually played this, so I don't remember all the hands, so I'm not sure what happens here. He does end up shoving, so this is kind of a tough spot because his range is going to be pretty strong here, but I think I have to call and run into jack, so it's a coin flip, and coin flip doesn't go my way. So that took a big dent out of my stack. An 860,000 chip pot. Okay, so very next hand we get ace jack. Definitely strong enough to raise from the cutoff. I go for a min raise because in late position, again, there's going to be so much 3-betting from the strong players that it's just you lose less when you do get 3-bet and have to fold. So I think min raising in late position, late in tournaments, is probably ideal. You can see I do get 3 bets from the player in the small blind, who is a very big 3-better, and because of that, the ace jack just becomes shove for me. The shove here with ace jack isn't necessarily just because of hand strength. Ace jack is a strong hand, but it's also, I'm doing this because I do have blockers to some of the strong hands he will have. with me having an ace, it reduces the chance that he has aces or ace king or ace queen, or with me having the jack, also pocket jacks. So that's another factor to consider when making a play like that. And you can see he ends up folding, so he probably had something like just a bluff 3-bet. And those are plays, that's a high variance play that I just made there with ace jack, but it's definitely a play you have to make if you want to win poker tournaments, because the players will relentlessly 3-bet you in spots like that, and if you don't fight back with hands like ace jack, you're just going to get run over. Okay, so you can see Andrew Bokia shoves because the player in the big blind only has 213,000, and again, some players are aware of the concept of effective stacks and some aren't. So some players, like I used to for a long time not be aware of it, and I used to always just play based on what the big blind was, even if there was antes, and I think that was a big mistake. And I used to see players, like, it looked like they were over shoving, like it would look like to me, because I wasn't aware of effective big blinds, that they were shoving, 25 big blinds, and it looked like a really ridiculous overshove to me. But once I was made aware of the concept of effective big blinds, it definitely makes a lot more sense. Okay, so king 5 suited under the gun, it's mostly going to be a fold, but I wouldn't mind raising it occasionally. I have been a little bit more active now lately though, so my raises probably won't get quite as much respect. So getting back to the idea of tournament poker is the highest variance form of poker. It's because when you get deep in a tournament like this, like I lost that coin flip with ace queen against jacks, getting into a spot like this where you're down to 2 tables in a big tournament doesn't happen very often, and then when the coin flip doesn't go your way, it's very devastating. It takes a long time to get back into spots like this and then to go ahead and win the coin flip. So it's I think it is the highest variance in poker. But tournaments are fun to play once in a while, and when you do get a big score, it's always very nice. Okay, so if you guys can hear that, there's an airplane going overhead right now. Alright, so we have a min raise on the button, 5 deuce suited. I'm not going to get out of line here, I'm just going to let it go. I don't think flat calling there wouldn't be too bad, but with a hand like that and with these stack sizes, you're pretty much, if you flat call there, you're pretty much playing fit or fold, and that's generally going to be a losing style to play. Because if you don't hit the flop, the guy's going to see bet, and you're going to have to fold most of the time. So I think just folding a pre-flop is probably best. Yeah, and looking at this table, there's no weak spots. Pretty much everyone is a good aggressive player. That's generally the case when you're deep in tournaments, especially ones that have a strong field to start with. If you can see my HUD, I did add one new stat since my last video and my HUD that I put online on SharkScopers.com. The very bottom right stat is fold to c-bet versus a raise, and I don't use that stat very often, but there are spots that it comes into play. You guys can add it to your HUD if you like it or not. Basically, it's when a player makes a c-bet, how often do they fold when somebody raises them. So it can be useful if somebody does fold a lot to raises after they c-bet. And it can also be useful in the opposite direction as well. If they don't fold to raises very often and you're thinking about bluff raising them as a c-bet, you might not want to do that because they don't fold very often to it. Again, it would take quite a few hands to have reliable information for that stat to be effective, but you know, once you get the number of hands to be able to use that, it can be good post-flop information. Looks like we're playing six-handed now, so the other table must have had an elimination, so we're getting closer to the final table. It's a pretty big pot so far developing here. Three-way. So now I think I have like about an average stack, maybe a little bit above average after losing that coin flip. Alright, so blinds are going up now. So with 12,000 in antes in the middle, 2/3 of that would be 8,000. So the effective big blind is roughly 28,000. Okay, it's pretty easy fold there with 5 deuce offsuit. So I'm in Vegas right now, and at the time of this recording, getting ready to play some World Series of Poker circuit events at Caesar's Palace, so hopefully that goes well for me. Alright, so this guy open shoves 500,000, and with effective stacks, you know, it is still a little bit of an overshove. He's got um, roughly about 18 to 20 big blinds, I think. 17 or 18 big blinds. I don't know, I'm not that good at math. Alright, again, another easy fold with 4-5 offsuit in early position. But you can see there is 42,000 in the pot to go after each hand, just without any betting. So it is a significant amount to try and steal. Picking up that 42,000 adds close to 10% to my stack. So anything reasonably playable, I am going to go after. Okay, so we get raised here from the small blind with 7-8 offsuit. I elect to fold there, and I think folding or calling is fine. Calling again is going to be tougher because we're pretty much playing fit or fold. For me to bluff raise post flop there, I'm probably going to have to go all in, and that's not going to be optimal, and it's going to be a high variance, and you'll find yourself getting knocked out of tournaments a lot of times and kicking yourself saying, why did I do that? So here with pocket jacks, this is a pretty easy call against a short stack. I want to re-raise to isolate though, to get the pot heads up, so I can play him you know, just one-on-one instead of in a multi-way pot. And again, it doesn't go my way, so that was a tough hand there. So if I would have won the coin flip and had my jacks hold up there, I would have been an overwhelming chip leader with probably about 1.5 million, I believe, or somewhere around there. But you know, that's the way it goes sometimes, and you can't go on tilt, going on tilt, or just blowing off the rest of your stack because it didn't go your way. Really will cost you money in the long run. So it's important just to remain calm, and what happened there is you have to understand is not in your control, and you made the right play, and there's nothing you can do about it. You just have to play your best on the next hand, and I think that's an important mindset that could help a lot of players. Okay, so with the big blind, effective big blind being 28,000, it puts me in a spot where I have, I think, about 14 big blinds. 14 big blinds is a very good stack for re-stealing, so if an opportunity like that presents itself, I'm definitely going to go for it. And most of these players do have high attempt to steals, so re-stealing is going to be definitely a play I'm looking to make with this stack size. Okay, 6-8 suited here is just a fold. You can see I brought up the other table just to kind of start watching it on the side to see how the other players are playing. So if I do get to the final table, I have somewhat of an idea of how they play instead of just them being a complete unknown player. I think that's always a good idea when you're down to 2 players deep in, or excuse me, 2 tables deep in a tournament, to start watching the other table to get an idea of who's doing what and what's going on, so that you can make better reads against them players when they're at your table at a final table. Back in the old days, you used to be able to start getting stats off of them players as well when you're down to 2 tables, to kind of get an idea for your HUD, but the poker sites don't allow that anymore, I don't think. Okay, so this guy again shoves 400,000, so he definitely knows about effective stacks, and so it's important to know the players that do and that don't, because some players will you know, just sit there and grind down till they have a very short stack, and when they do go ahead and shove, you got to give them more credit as far as having a strong hand, because their hand range is going to be stronger than somebody who is playing an effective stack. Okay, so I just fold the Jack 3 offsuit there. Alright, so here I'm considering going for a re-steal because of a stack size and the late position steal, but Jack 7 offsuit is, you know, it's a spot where I would do it some of the time, but again, it's going to be a high variance play, and Jack 7 offsuit is just a little bit too weak. I would rather have 7-8 offsuit there than Jack 7 offsuit, actually, because I think he calls with some jacks in his range that have me dominated, like Ace Jack, maybe even King Jack, and he may even he may call with like pocket 7s, Ace 7 maybe. So it's definitely a spot where I just elect to fold there. I do want to go for re-steals, but having the right type of hand for doing it is important when you're going for a re-steal. You want to have a hand that plays well against their calling range. Okay, there was a break there, so I paused the video and skipped over it. big blind is now 25,000. So my stack is getting shorter and shorter as far as effective. With 15,000 in the middle, that adds another 10,000 to the big blind. So the big blind is actually 35,000. And with that, I have 11 big blinds. Ace-9 offsuit is a shove from the cutoff with 11 big blinds, in my opinion. Six-handed, so this is pretty standard play, I think. And again, some of you watching the video, effective big blinds is probably a new concept to you. If you had this stack size, you might say, with a 25,000 big blind, you might think you have what is it, 14 big blinds, and with 14 big blinds, ace-9 is probably a fold there, but with 11 big blinds, it is a shove. So again, it's an important concept that hopefully is not new to you, but if it is, it will definitely improve your game. So just picking up that pot though really increases your stack by quite a bit. Boards like this, 3, 4, 5, are always interesting because you know, they get check raised a pretty decent amount of the time, check called. So it's a board that gets battled on quite a bit, and I think the players that win these types of boards most often, when both players have nothing, are going to be the players that win the most. So you can see the turn gets check raised. When the early position player checks a flop on this board, he probably doesn't have a very strong hand. He's not going to check an overpair. He's not going to check pocket aces or pocket kings on that board. He's probably not even going to check pocket nines on that board. So when he bets the turn, I really like that player's check raise, because he's not repping a very strong hand when he bets the turn there. The only thing, when the 10 comes, he might be able to rep ace-10. Ace-10 might check that board because he has a gut shot. 3, 4, 5. If the deuce hits, he makes a straight with his ace in his hand. But you know, he's not repping a whole lot, so I really like that check raise, especially if it was a bluff. If that was a bluff, I really give him props, because that was a good play. Now, if he was sitting there with a set or ace-10 himself, or a diamond draw, if he had a legitimate hand, then, you know, obviously that's a fine play. But if that was a bluff, I really give him kudos for that. Okay, so with the effective big blind of 35,000, again my stack is like about 11 big blinds, so I pretty much have to push or fold. Okay, again, this guy has a high attempt to steal, but Queen 3 offsuit is just a terrible hand when called. So with 11 big blinds effective, I can afford to wait an orbit or two more before I go. Alright, so here's obviously a snap call with ace king, just hoping to be up against a hand like ace queen or king queen or ace jack. Okay, so we are up against ace jack, and it's 800,000 chip pot. Alright, so that one holds up. And we knock out a player, which is always nice. He just got $2,104, which is a nice tournament. And it looks like we're hand for hand now, so we are on the money bubble. Playing five-handed. With ace-5 offsuit here, I just won a big pot, and after winning a big pot, I think players don't expect you to raise light too often. Although I do get shipped on here. Some of the time I would raise ace-5 here, some of the time I'd fold it, and this time I raised it and get shipped on, so I'm just going to have to fold now. Okay, with Jack 5 offsuit, pretty easy fold. I think there is a pretty significant pay increase for making the final table here, so it's definitely something all the players are probably aware of, and nobody wants to be the bubble boy who finishes one spot away from the final table. Which I have done numerous times. This, with the ace deuce there, I don't think it's a bad spot to make a bluff 3-bet, because I have the ace in my hand as a blocker, and that guy's been stealing quite a bit. At that time I folded, but I think it's an okay spot to go ahead and try and re-steal. If I were to do that, I would probably make it like 135, 145, something in there. Okay, so king 4 suited, just a fold. Pawn Cohen seems to like to defend his big blind, so that's something to Note while playing. Now this board is really dry. I would expect the pre-flop raiser to c-bet this board almost every single time. So he is going to have a lot of error in his range. So pawn can check raises a min check raise, and they get it in. Wow. Set versus air. You know, I don't mind the player with ace-8 there. His re-raise, it's a little spewy. He's probably considering the fact that he got check-raised last time by that player, and now he's getting check-raised again. And he's not going to have anything on that board very often. So, again, it's kind of a spewy play, but you know, he's going with his read that this guy's check raising with air a lot, and you know, you have to be willing to take chances like that occasionally in tournaments if you want to win your fair share of tournaments. The min check raise though was maybe a little indicative of his hand strength though, because most players don't min check raise as a bluff, because they're giving you very good odds to call, and it's not going to be a bluff too often there, I don't think. So alright, so we get a bet and a 3-bet, so we just fold 4 high. Alright, now we have a pretty strong hand for 5-handed play. Ace-Jack offsuit on the button. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and make a min raise here. Alright, and don't get no action, unfortunately. If either player would have shoved, it's probably a call there for me with ace-jack, given the fact that both players have high 3-bet versus steal stats. Okay, so blinds are going up again. Okay, there's still 15,000 in antes, so still adding 10,000 to the big blind, so the effective big blind is 40. Yeah, with these stack sizes, we have 3 players at the table with 400,000, so they have about a 10 big blind stack, and you know, making steal attempts against those stack sizes is just going to be really tough, because they're going to shove so often. So, you know, again, that leads me more to tighten up my stealing range. Alright, if this guy shoves, you know, I just have to fold. Okay, Bokia is making a small raise from early position, so you know, good players I think tend to do that more when they want action. So I had a decent hand there for reshoving, but given the fact that he didn't just open shove himself, leads me more to think that he probably wants action. Alright, so we just made the final table, guaranteed $3,000. And the next pay increase is another $1,900. So each spot that you move up is pretty significant here at the final table. So my strategy going in is, you know, I'm just looking still for plus EV spots. I'm definitely not going to turn down a spot that I think I have a significant edge, but I do also have more chips than quite a few of the players at the table, so I do kind of want to let some of the players bust, but I'm definitely not afraid to go ahead and get all the chips in if I think I have an edge and risk busting out in 9th place. So it's still, you know, you definitely want to play for the win in these spots, and with my chip stack, I think in 4th place at this point, so if I double up, I definitely have a very good shot at winning. So I want to definitely play for the win, but not take any unnecessary risk to risk busting out before some of the shorter stacks. Okay, so get dealt a very good hand here, second hand of the final table. And the chip leader has over 2 million now, so he's definitely got a big lead on everybody. In this spot here, with the effective big blind being 40,000, I think just shoving is definitely best. Flat calling is not going to be as good as just shoving. I think even though I have position on my opponent, we're just so short stacked that you know, I'm gonna miss the flop 2/3 of the time and not know where I'm at, and just be basically guessing as to whether my opponent has anything or not. And with these shorter stacks, I don't want to play guessing games. I'd rather just get it in and be able to see all 5 cards if he calls, and take my chances there. So I think I made the best play there, which is shoving ace king. He ended up folding, so it's probably just a steal attempt. Okay, the ace-9 in middle position. It definitely could open that, but with the stacks behind me, if you notice, there are 3 players to my left have 10 big blind stacks, so it's not a hand that I'm going to be able to call one of their shoves with. You know, I could call, but you know, they're going to show up with hands that dominate ace-9 so often that don't think it's going to be too profitable. And I don't think I'm just going to be able to steal the blinds too often. And ace-9 is really difficult to play post-flop if someone just flat calls. So with all those reasons listed, I'd just elect to just open fold it. If we were deeper stacked, I would be more inclined to go ahead and raise it, but that's not the case in this situation. So it's just a fold for me. This is a pretty big final table for me, with first place being about $40,000. So this is a spot where I would definitely consider doing a deal if the other players want to. And I believe we do talk about that as the table goes, but no deal ends up happening, and we just end up playing it out. Okay, so King 8 offsuit, just a easy fold. Okay, so the players who came in from the other table, again, there's no really weak spot. They all look like they're very good players, so you know, it's definitely a tough table, but if you have the right strategies to use against good players, you can definitely exploit some of their weaknesses. Okay, the guys on the button, his 3-bet sizing, I like quite a bit. It's making it nice size there. It's tough to call that bet. It's tough to re-raise it with nothing. So it puts the original pre-flop raiser in a difficult spot. Okay, so now there is 27,000 in the antes, so 2/3 of that would be 18,000. So the effective big blind is 48,000 now. That's you know, that makes a lot of the stacks at the table 10 big blinds or less. So they're probably just going to be looking to shove or fold. At least they should be. Okay, you can see most of the players at the table are min-raising as their opening size. With these blind levels and the aggressiveness of the 3-betting at the table, I definitely think that's optimal here at this table. Because when you do have to fold, you're obviously losing the least amount. Kings against 10s. Wow, and the 10s get there.